But first, the real reason the Prime Minister's voice is now in deep political trouble is because more and more people think that Aboriginal activists already have much too much say in how our country's being run. Now, Exhibit A, in the growing public concern about where the indigenisation of our country's headed, is the West Australian Aboriginal Heritage Act. Thanks to this act from last month, anyone wanting to do anything involving digging half a metre a hole in their backyard on a property 1,100 square metres or greater, so size of a large house block, well, they now have to check there are no Aboriginal heritage issues. If it involves much in the way of ground disturbance, there must be then formal permission from a local Indigenous group, with a scale of fees for Indigenous heritage consultants. Now, the whole thing is a grotesque overreaction to Rio Tinto's 2020 destruction of the Juukan Gorge heritage site, which should not have happened, but then you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater to try and stop it happening again. Already, things like tree planting ceremonies have been cancelled because of objectors citing these new heritage laws and wanting Aboriginal fees paid and pre-approvals granted. The WA Farmers Federation, well, they've said these laws are an unprecedented assault on private property. Today, the Australian newspaper reports legal advice that removing sand from one property to provide building pads on another could cost the landholder up to $100,000 in extra fees to get the relevant heritage assessments and permissions. Now, this is on land that's been in the one family for 3 generations, but it's potentially subject to these new laws because it's near a possible ancient camping area. The freehold landowner says he's had legal advice and heritage advice. It says prior to going ahead with shifting the sand between his 2 properties, he needs to, and I quote, complete an ethnographic and archaeological survey that could cost, as I say, upwards of $100,000. And that it is, to quote, quite possible that I would need a cultural representative to be there with every shovel load of sand that went out just in case some artefacts or bones are found. And just as this WA Act is driving uproar about extra interference in land management decisions, the federal government is considering its own Aboriginal heritage regime, including the creation of yet another national body to, quote, appoint and empower local First Nation groups to make decisions about cultural heritage. Don't we have enough mechanisms for transferring money from the general public to these Indigenous activists? Don't we have enough Aboriginal bodies as it is? The fact that all these rackets will be turbocharged under the voice is just yet another reason to vote no.